Hey everybody, welcome to Wally DM, and today we have a GM roundtable for you. Number 6, I believe. I think this is number 6 for the new format, the Game Master. And with me today, I have some of my YouTube friends from around the world, and we're going to have fun talking about traps, magic items, and monsters. And of course, a big shout out to Norak for the super chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And let's let everybody introduce themselves. We'll start in the blue square with AJ.
Hi, everybody. I used to have a mustache. It's gone now. Let's just get that out of the way. I've got a YouTube channel. I talk about aliens and role-playing games and not much D&D anymore, but I've got a huge archive of D&D lore videos that you can peruse. That's not going anywhere.
All the lore that you could want, for sure.
All the lores.
Yeah. All the lores. In the purple square, we have Mr. Bearbard.
Hey, yeah, I'm the Bearbard. I do Bearbard Tales. We do a bunch of RPG stories, tend to be horror stories. There could be some other stuff coming up close in the future. Yeah, we kind of go over the worst that the table has to offer and try to figure out how to do it better. I'll also be doing other stuff too, so check it out.
Awesome. And in the orange square, we have the okayest DM.
Hi, I'm Dennis. I run the OKSDM YouTube channel. Haven't done a whole lot in there recently because my focuses have been on creating a pretty high-end actual play podcast for D&D, and I've been designing my own rules light TTRPG system. It has been an absolute blast, and I'll probably say more on that when we're doing outros or something.
Sounds good. In the green square, we have the puzzle dude, Wally DM. Hey, that's me. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I wrote that book there. That is Fred's holding. So thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help out the live stream and all of those fun things. And in the yellow square, we have How to RPG.
Yes, my name is Fred Weller, and I run the YouTube channel How to RPG, which means I explain to people how to operate rocket-propelled launchers. I've moved away from Dungeons and Dragons. I thought that there's more money to be made in explaining to people how to operate weapons of war. And I am currently working on a tabletop role-playing game that involves killing somebody else. So that's my current... Actually, I do a lot of things, but who cares, really? Let's just get into it.
You thought the Slingshot channel was exciting.
Yeah.
Here's my rocket battalion. Let me show you its features.
Oh, fantastic. So the way things are going to work today is we have 4 topics of discussion. The first 2, I'm going to go ahead and run those for us, and then Fred will take over when we get to the fun with monsters portion. And of course, if you have anything to say in the chat, be sure to put it out there. And in between speakers, we'll try to address those if we can. If you have a question, just put big old capital letters question there, and we'll see what we can do with those. And in the meantime, let's have some fun and get started with our first topic, which is going to be a trap. Now, on the screen, you're going to see Rory's story cubes. These were randomly rolled, and each of us have picked 3 of the cubes, and we have created a trap idea out of that. This might not be a finished trap. It may not be something that you would recommend others use, but it is a trap idea that you can take and do with it what you will. The cubes that we have, so you can play this game at home if you'd like to. Submit your own trap ideas either in the comments if you're watching this in the future or in the live chat. We have looks like a psionic mind, or someone that is thinking really, really hard. We have a no something sign. It's got a circle with a cross, no swimming, no live streaming, no something in there. We have a door with tentacles coming out of it. We have a tiger cube. We have, what is that? We have someone with a mask that's either shooting something or getting hit by something, and they're sitting on the floor taking a break. We have an owl. We have a dude standing in the doorway casting a huge shadow. We have an invisible hero, and we have an acorn. And Mr. Bearbard, get us started. What are the 3 cubes that you used, and tell us about your trap idea?
I didn't want to go first.
Oh, that's right. But see, when I moved your squares around, when you forced me to do that impromptu, hey, everything's messed up, we got to switch things around.
I got you. Okay, cool.
Thanks, man.
So I happened to inadvertently choose the all the 3 on the far right.
Okay.
And I'm actually kind of excited about this. I'm always excited about these story cues, but this one I'm kind of interested in potentially using it in something for my own. So how the trap starts, a couple situations you can use this for. And it's kind of the long game. Every so often throughout your adventures see an owl. You don't have to draw crazy amounts of attention to it. You don't want to draw crazy unless you really want them to go after this, but they hit a town and you're looking around the market and you see sellers and you see this and there's an owl and blah blah blah. And then you leave town. Yeah, you look around, there's a big scary forest, there's an owl, and then maybe it hits in a weird spot. Yeah, you're in the dungeon and there's, you're deep underground and it's wet, and then there's an owl, maybe, or you think you hear an owl, and you keep drawing attention to this owl in subtle ways. Again, it depends on how like into it you want to go, but you just kind of like, it's one of those things that after like a couple months you're like, what the fuck is that? Like, excuse me for language, but what is with this owl? You just kind of like, again, as you want, if it starts really bugging you can draw more attention to it.
It's just like bugging me.
Yeah, like what is with this owl? And so they go after it. Like, okay, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna go after this owl.
Uh-huh.
So they go after the owl, and it does the turn the corner, disappears. But there's an acorn, and they just see an acorn, and it's an ordinary acorn, but it's through your description you draw attention to it. You turn around and there's nothing there, but there's just this one acorn on the ground. Okay, that's weird. Well, what are your players going to do? They're going to pick it up, right? Because that's what we do. We pick up the acorn. That's just how it is. They pick up the acorn, nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. And so they just like, okay, whatever, throw it in the bag of holding because we have room. That night, they get some weird dreams. And maybe they see a bit of a tentacle. And then the next night, they get these weird dreams, and they see maybe more tentacle. And basically you can go into this, again, how I see it is you go into like this kind of old god dreams. You can start and then again, it depends on how much you want to get. You can get into the ancient city. You can get into this, maybe you're being chased by tentacles, maybe, because like how I see that, it's like they're trying to keep out the tentacles, but it's in the dreams. It's just hitting the dreams. And again, from here, you can go a couple different directions. Once they get rid of the acorn, it's done. The dreams are gone. But,
Okay.
And that could be it. But if they don't, you can either just have it just as a constant thing of just like, maybe they don't get full rest or whatever. But what I would do is I'd put a countdown. So after a certain amount of time, so say 30 days or whatever it is with these dreams, all of a sudden it draws them in. And then now from here, you can go one of two ways. Now you have an old god kind of themed trap that they can escape from, and you can play that as a dungeon. You can play that as just like a side hustle, or you could totally change up your whole campaign. If you're running a campaign and you're just kind of getting, it's like a lot of, if you're like, wow, we're doing a lot of this weird side questing or whatever, screw it. You now have an old god theme whole campaign. That's it. And you could just totally change your whole situation up with just by doing this almost innocuous trap. And so, I like, for me, it's just kind of like, I always love the old gods, kind of Cthulhu, all that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's just like, with them not realizing it, it just draws them more and more in. So it can draw them through there, or you can even just do a TPK or what, you can do whatever you want with that. But after that timer, you can do something with, again, they wake up to an old god attacking them. They wake up drawn into that other world, into the city, and so.
Can they be attacked by owls?
Can they be attacked by owls? Yeah. I mean, maybe the owls have the tentacles. So, yes, Mr. Wheeler.
I have a question, Game Master.
I got you.
Is the acorn made of gold?
So okay, so that's where you can kind of decide if it's made of gold, it's going to draw more attention to it. But if that's what you want, then sure. My idea is that it would be innocuous because they would just kind of forget about it. Like, well, that was kind of a weird dead end. But yeah, if you want it to draw more attention, it could be gold. Or when they wake up, if they fail to on that 30-day thing, they wake up in the other world. Now it's gold, and that could be your like, aha, that was the cause. And it's like that moment of like, gotcha, it's the acorn. You should have got rid of it, asshole, kind of thing. So
Right. So you were getting me so lost, but I'm going to my response to Game Master Alex. The bear bard. If it's not made of gold, I step on it and ignore it and walk away. That's
okay, and that's a possibility. And again, that's just going to be you knowing your group. That's going to be
now the gods
again,
are angry.
Yeah, I was going to say
and that could be a
broken
thing,
dreams.
too.
Mhm.
You throw it away, and maybe that angers them. Maybe the gods hold off until they get rid of it, and then they punish them. Again, there's 1,000 different ways you could play this with the same basic idea. You just cater it to your group and what you want to accomplish with it.
I think I'm going to use that. I love the idea of the just seeing the same thing over and over again until they're like, what the hell is this damn thing? And then it's just like, what? I love it. I love it. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I think the long play is the best way of doing it. But again, you can play it however you want. Your table, it's your table. But yeah, I think the long play is the best for me. Especially you push that out for a couple months, and like it's just like this, like it's such an unsatisfying end. What they think is an unsatisfying end.
Yeah.
And then to be something so major after that.
Awesome.
I like the idea of just the whole party all having the same dream over and over and over again. And maybe for me, because I want to use this now, I think the tipping point could be something like they actually see each other in their dreams. And it's not they wake up and something happens. It's they don't wake up. They stay in the dream and have to escape.
Yeah, they could each be having their own separate dreams, but of the same house, the same situation. So they're all trying to escape the house, and it is separate. It doesn't have to be the same, but it's the same situation. So it's almost because everyone gets the same dream. That's almost like two, like, okay, it's a thing, but like they're all having separate but similar dreams. The same thing. It's the same. They're being taken to the same place, but it's still their perspective.
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing that gold dragons pull on people.
Yeah. And I think it needs to be centered around whoever has the acorn. So like if you're all in different, so you're actually in, whoever's got the acorn, you're actually in their dream. That would be cool.
There you go. Yeah. And then maybe you can give it away if it's the druid holding the acorn, the other players feel a weird, if they're wild shaped druid, they feel, maybe if they use a wolf form a lot, they all have that almost canine like feel because it would be from that druid's perspective. Yeah. That kind of that'd be great. Or if it's the paladin, you always, all the players, even if they're a warlock, they feel that holy righteousness or whatever, whatever it links to that player. But yeah, you could absolutely kind of point to it's that person, it's around them.
I like it. That's a pretty nutty trap. I like that one. Very good. What about you, OKS DM? What do you have for us? What kind of trap did you create? What cubes did you use?
Well, has anybody other than me ever experienced a rogue sneaking off ahead of the party to do something before? Or is that just me?
Never. I've never seen that.
Okay. So the storage cubes that I chose are the tentacle door as well. But I also chose the invisible guy and the don't sign, or whatever that is. So the middle of the top and the middle of the bottom. So this is a trap that is supposed to be put inside an actual dungeon. And they come to this room, this huge room. Think like giant pillars holding up a ceiling that's too high and too dark to see. The Mines of Moria or something along those lines. So they can't see into the darkness. They can only hear the echoes of their footsteps along walls that are too far away. And right at the front of the door into this room, there's a sign. Just posted, a wooden sign or stone sign, and scratched on it is "Don't be sneaky." You're spelled really badly. or something along the lines of don't try to sneak, don't be invisible, don't something along those lines. And of course, the rogue's going to do what they always do, and they roll a stupid high stealth check and go into the darkness alone. Now there's a creature inside these shadows that lives there, and it just despises being snuck up on above anything else. It is totally fine with people just walking through its own territory and, getting to the other side. But if someone tries to stealth through the territory, that's when they attack. This huge tentacle monster that never reveals its true body just attacks with long tendrils from every angle, targeting the person that was trying to sneak up on them. But if the party goes up into this room and just announces their presence, "Hi, we're here. Hello, we're going to walk over to the other side now. I hope you'll let us." Maybe the monster does actually reveal itself, and he's a really nice guy. He's just, a little skittish. This giant tentacle being with an unpronounceable name actually ushers them to the other side, has a very pleasant conversation, and opens the door for them when they get there.
Well done. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some folks just don't like to be startled. That's it. They can't, don't scare me.
It's true.
I like that. Yeah, very good. Very good. And
or you just beat it with a painted purple orc.
that could happen too. And who knows? I mean, how long will the rest of the party wait when the rogue doesn't come back? I mean, that's what I want to know. Because there's a good chance if they try to sneak by that and it engulfs them or whatever it is that decides to do that, like, maybe we shouldn't go that way. Very cool.
Rogue goes wandering off, and then 5 minutes later, a whole new character comes back. "Hi, guys. I'm his cousin." Sure.
And my name is also so-and-so. Very cool. I like that one. Very good. Very good. I guess I am next in the lineup. So the 3 cubes that I chose are the exact same 3 cubes that the Bear Bard chose. So I chose the door with the tentacles. That seems to be a favorite so far. I chose the owl, and I chose an acorn. So with my trap, there's an owl that keeps showing up. No, I'm just kidding. So I have a puzzle on my channel called the Prismatic Owl, and a lot of people have used that before. And I've got the Prismatic Owl Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4 all in my book. So I have 4 different puzzles that I've ran before that involve an owl statue. Yep, all in that book right there that Fred is holding. So with my trap, I'm going to call this one "Are You Nuts?" And this is going to involve a statue, and it's going to be a statue of an owl, and it's going to be made of solid oak. And of course, it is going to be magically protected by abjuration magic cast by a 72nd level wizard, so it can't be hacked to death by the barbarian's axe. It's going to be indestructible, if you will. And it's going to be in the middle of this room, and it's going to be facing a door that is also made of solid oak. And the door is also going to be protected by this abjuration type of an aura. Now, one eye of the statue is going to be like this dark black void. There's going to be nothing there, and it's just going to be this empty socket. However, the other one is going to look like somebody took a large acorn and just kind of awkwardly jammed it into place. Now, I made this solid oak as well, but if you need to make it gold to entice your adventurers to be like, "Hey, that's a gold acorn, I can get a few drinks out of that," then I would encourage you to do so. But I was going with the oak tree theme with that. So, of course, the trap is going to be triggered if you remove the acorn from the eye socket of the owl. And that is when the oak door is going to open up and out is going to pour this blackness. And I'm kind of thinking of the 5th edition spell. It's either Arms of Hadar or the Hunger of Hadar, where it is everything's like a 20-foot sphere of this black darkness, and all you hear is gross, milky, slurpy noises, or something to that extent. But actually, that's as far as I've gotten with this trap. Is I just want to use the wooden owl because I've used that so many times. You pull the acorn out, you're going to trigger it. Otherwise, if you just continue on without doing that, then you'll be just fine. That's all I got. And
I love the traps
like
that just punish curiosity.
Yeah.
Because you know they're going to push the button every time.
Absolutely. Yeah, you always take something. I mean, especially if it's an eye sockets, that goes all the way back to the AD&D first edition cover where you got the big statue idol with the ruby eyes and stuff. Of course, we're going to take those. So,
and I know it's like a weird thing to point out, but I always love like the oak tree as the center of anything. It's the center of a story, the center of a. I feel like the oak tree is such a strong bit of symbolism. It's like it's a strong thing that everyone can just like immediately imagine and picture, and I'm having trouble coming up with the right word, but it's strong imagery, and it's always I feel like having the oak as the center of anything is always just a good, solid choice.
Then of course
like
you got
oak itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Fred, what did you come up with? What do you have for us?
Sure. Is AJ been, or is he still making your trap by the looks?
AJ's next.
Cool. AJ's
I'm
next.
done.
He's done. I could see you doing notes there.
I'm just drawing a picture.
So I have gone with the acorn, the lion, and the sign that says "Don't whatever" on a whatever it is. And basically, the sign is going to be outside a manor, a large house or manor, with perfect grass and a large acorn tree that has golden acorns hanging from it. And there's the ground is just completely covered in golden acorns. And the sign says, "Stay off the grass and don't steal the acorns." Now, we know almost immediately it's going to happen. Okay, it's going to happen. So the trigger for that trap is, the tree is way too far away. They would have to go across the grass to get to the tree. It's not right in the front. I'm not making it that easy for them. Okay, so the trigger for activating the trap is walking on the grass, picking up an acorn, or deciding to piss on the grass because they're angry with the sign and the people who own the place there. So 3 potential triggers are available there, okay? All right. I might even include trying to pick an acorn off the tree if they can figure out how to do that with Mage Hand, if they've got enough range or whatever. Now, the effect, if when the trigger activates, should they piss on the grass, walk on the grass, or pick up an acorn, is it releases a hail of acorns, golden acorns that descend and rain down on them. And because gold is so heavy, being struck by an acorn will probably kill you, okay? And if you get hit by enough of these things, it'll probably wipe you out. As you may be aware, every time I make a trap on Wally's channel, usually the trap either does something horrible to you or you die, okay? So death by golden acorns, or there's the other possibility, if they go and walk on the grass and don't pick up the acorns, it releases the lion that was around the back of the manor, comes charging through, comes and eats them. I've considered the possibility of also having the acorn tree come to life and beat them to death. So that was my trap for today. Not quite as long and involved as everybody else's, but thank God it wasn't. Okay, there we go. I'm done.
I like both of those. I mean, that gives me so many ideas. Wow. So like with the gold acorn, I think it'd be funny if like just one, if they get hit by one, and then if you pick that one up, then you get hit by 2, and if you pick one of those up, then you get hit by 4. And just multiplication of them. That'd be hilarious. I like it.
I just like the concept of being pelted with golden acorns. That's ridiculous. I love it.
Oh, very nice, very nice. AJ, what do you have for us? What'd you come up with?
Okay, this one is called Who Goes There? And I didn't know what the rules of the story cubes were, so I used all of them.
There you go.
So this features a well-known a lair or a dungeon or a tomb or some kind, which has got a fabulous gemstone of power that is craved by all sorts of wizards and things, but they will not go anywhere near this place because it is a well-known absolute death trap. And people go in, they don't come out. And so no wizard wants to go in there themselves, so they've sent some adventurers in instead with the offer of lots of coin if they retrieve the gem for them. So they get in there, and the first thing they discover is that it's completely dark. Not just like lack of light dark, but it seems to be a psychic darkness where if you use any sort of light source whatsoever, it responds with a psychic backlash that actually causes you mental pain in the form of a ringing sound in your ears like thunder. And so you're walking through an area where you're basically feeling out things, and they notice that the walls are dry, but as soon as you get down to the ground level, it's slick and slimy with puddles of water all over the place that seem to be etched out as if by acid. And so you're describing the details of the texture of the dungeon in great detail to them, and every little sound that they can hear over top of this ringing sound, because they've got, some sort of light, maybe somebody's got a glowing sword or whatever. Now, the only way that they can really get through this unscathed is to have metal over their head in the form of a helmet or something, and possibly turn themselves invisible, because the creature that's inside this lair can see them perfectly well. And this is what it is.
Oh my goodness.
It is a baby aboleth inside a specially modified ooze that is so basically like a water bag. And the ooze is sensitive to light, so that the aboleth don't like light in the first place. So it's a psychic monster that is stalking them through this maze-like trap where the adventurers can't see anything over this very unstable terrain with puddles and pools and pitfalls and traps and things. And it's pretty straightforward. All they basically got to do is get through a couple of rooms and get there. But they have a horrific monster which is stalking them.
That could be one of the most horrifying monsters I have seen in a long time. So the aboleth is being kept alive by being inside of that. That is,
it's basically a baby aboleth. Yeah.
Wow.
I love it. I love every bit of that.
AJ, I know I'm not supposed to interrupt, but can you give it a name and make a lore video on your new monster? Because
that's really good.
I mean, is Aboleth owned by Wizards of the Coast, or is Ooze owned by Wizards of the Coast? It doesn't.
I don't have to call this an Aboleth. I can call it whatever I want.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's a fish monster.
It's a brainfish. It's a brainfish.
It's an ooze
A brainfish.
and so it's an Goobilith.
Oobalith.
No, I'm serious, AJ. We need a lore video on that little shit now.
Yeah, that thing's amazing. So
the Goobilith, otherwise known as the Mind Guppy.
Mind Guppy. So it reminds me of like how you could get Jello plain, or you could get it with like fruit or something inside of it. So
This one's fish flavored.
What happens?
Caviar beast.
What happens is the baby aboleth grows up? Do they like shed their Jello and find more Jello to get into, or does it?
Well, it replenishes its Jello by essentially latching its tentacles onto a person and turning them into slime, and then it just basically feeds that slime into the ooze.
That's
so
amazing.
it's a symbiotic relationship. Yeah,
that's amazing. I love it, man. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Very, very good. So those are our traps using Rory's story cubes, and future lore video from AJ on that horrifying aberration ooze thing that he just created. Be sure to leave a comment below. What trap did you come up with? What cubes did you use? And what traps will you be looking forward to using against your group? Let's take a quick second. I don't see anything in chat that we need to address. I could be wrong. I kind of lost track. For the rest of us too, if you do see anything in chat, let us know, and feel free to call it out as well. But I do want to say hi to everybody. There's a lot of folks there in chat. Good to see everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to move on to topic 2. And topic 2 is going to be a homebrew magic item, just something that you want to share with us. And how do you feel about this? Dennis, are you cool with going first?
Sure.
All right. Well, lead us off. What magic item do you want to share with us?
So last time we went over this question, I brought this story about some epic shadow sword from a different realm and a history of how it was made for the ancient elf kings. Today, all I have is a little box that blows puffs of air. That's it. That's all it does. And the story of how this puff box came to be is, for those of you that don't know, my DM style is very improvisational. I like making stuff up just on the spot. Plot twists that don't really make sense, but the players make them make sense in strange ways. And I had put together this sort of riddle, and I had pulled up, just like 50 D&D riddles article or whatever. And it was the classic, you go to a old wizard who lives alone in a hut, and he says, "Trade riddles with me, please. I will give you this box. You don't know what's inside, but I will give it to you if you can solve my riddle." Just this crazy old man, and they solved one of the riddles, and so they got the box, and they were super excited to open it up and see what was inside. And so I describe, as what the one player opens it up, all the rest of them see their hair get blown back dramatically as their eyes go wide and blink many times, and they look inside and there's absolutely nothing. And they thought it was just flavor at first. And I was completely BSing at this point. I had no magic item to give them whatsoever. So I said, "How about an empty box?" And they were like, "But we want a magic item." And one of the players he said, "Wait, close it and open it again." And I immediately knew where he was going, and I said, "Yes." They closed it and opened it again, get blown back dramatically, close it, open again, blown back dramatically. And they carried around this puff box with them for, I don't know, like 30 sessions, a year in real time. And eventually they traded it off for a magic item that they actually needed down the road. So it just goes to show that sometimes the best magic items don't do anything. They don't actually matter. But you can have just as much fun with them as you can with, your luck blade or orb of world killing or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely love those kind of magic items, especially ones you make up on the fly and they're like all interested in. You have no idea, like, this is what it does. And so some of those end up being the best. I mean, I've seen instances before where they'll spend 5 to 10 minutes on trying to figure it out, trying to do different things with it and stuff. So very cool. I very much like that one. Before it looks like I'm next in the lineup, but before I do that, I do see that we did, to go back to the trap conversation real quick, it looks like Norak put an idea in there, and I just want to highlight that real quick. Norak chose all the ones on the left as far as the story cubes are concerned. As you walk through a forest, you sense something following you. After some time, you start hearing a lion's roar. Eventually, the part sees within your own shadow a shadow lion. If the lion's attacked, it attacks back. Very cool. Appreciate you guys playing that game with us. It's a very fun game. The home version is now available if you would like to pick that up as well. So the magic item that I came up with, and I feel like I'm dropping the ball on this roundtable a little bit because I went with a lot of not serious answers, just like practical answers this week. And I don't know if it's because honestly, I don't have any excuse. So my apologies, but here we go. So this is a magic item that I recently put into my game, and I gave this one to the wizard player who is now multi-classed into 2 levels of warlock, because what I have given them is a book and some tarot cards. Now there is a puzzle on my channel that involves tarot cards, and this is the way that I wanted to use it. So I have an idea for this magic item. It's going to be this legendary book that was given by this patron, and as we progress through this campaign, she just now got the first part. So one page is going to appear. She gets 6 tarot cards. I give them the puzzle. Once she figures it out, it's going to have a magical effect. But down the road in the campaign, she's going to obtain more of these tarot cards, and I'm going to provide a second puzzle and then a third puzzle. And so with this book and with the ones that she's figured out, she can spend 10 minutes in the morning as a ritual and gain one of those effects. So like if you wanted to do something like this in your game, maybe one of them is mage armor. Maybe one of them is temporary hit points. Maybe one of them is like bonuses on your charisma checks or something like that. So once you accumulate this, you accumulate the tarot cards, and then the pages in the book start to appear, then you can start giving them more abilities. And so the first one, we've only done one so far, and we're actually going to play Sunday. So she'll be figuring out the puzzle, and then I get to give her this first effect by her new patron, which is she is a what's the purple gem dragon? That amethyst dragon. So her patron is this ancient amethyst dragon, and I don't know if anybody else knows this, but the Dragonborn in 5th edition kind of sucks with regards to their breath weapon. So I'm going to give her double the dice. So if she uses this in the morning, she does her 10-minute ritual, activates this magic item. Now she loves a breath weapon. She has Fireball, and I think they're 6th or 7th level. She's got like all these powerful magic spells, but she keeps using the breath weapon. I'm just like, use some, so we're going to make it more powerful. Every morning she's going to get up. She can roll, double the dice on her breath weapon, and then we'll go from there and see. So I like making stuff up like that, and given seeing how players use the abilities and the stuff, and then see if we can enhance what they already like to do. So that is the tarot card book, which is a work in progress.
There's plenty of lore for supporting like a subclass for Dragonborn, which is specifically a breath weapon sorcerer, who could, because that's all through 3.5 edition and stuff. There was like races to the dragon and stuff. There's all sorts of dragon breath spells and magic effects they use their breath weapon for.
That's cool. I might have to dig into that because if I can just keep doing that and add an effect to she loves using the breath weapon, so it's like, okay, let's see what else we could do. Yeah, thanks. Let's look into it. Fred, what magic item do you have for us?
Actually, it's not my it's kind of my design, but not really my design. It's actually made by my subscribers, some of which will be in the chat right now and will recognize it almost immediately because it's mostly their idea. So the one I selected was the Book of Memories, and the Book of Memories acts like a person's personal diary. Instead of writing in the book, you actually just talk, and it's also, while you're holding it, it's able to draw your memories out of your head and form them into words, but also form them into images. So when you go back and you read it, it talks to you. You can see the writing, but it actually speaks, and it actually gives you I guess consider it like a pop-out book. When you open the book, the pop-out book has like a little image, but this one's like a magical illusion. So it's as simple as that. It's like it's the ability to actually put something that you remember into the book, and by having the book, you're able to do that. So it's kind of like, but not quite. It's not supposed to be I don't want to have to take notes, and I want the dungeon master or game master to just tell me everything that my character ever does, sort of thing. It's actually not really supposed to be used like that. It is just, although it could be. But yeah, that's the one I had selected because I thought it was the most interesting, because it doesn't do anything that involves killing stuff, and it's really odd, but it's very specific, and it's actually quite powerful, and it's quite unique. I thought I really liked the idea when they put that idea forward and we built it all up. I loved it. A couple of others that I've put forward is the Remember Ball, which basically when you forget something, you can look in the ball to figure out what it is. It'll give you a little image inside the ball to remind you what the hell the thing that you forgot about was.
That's cool.
And the spoon.
In other words, ask the DM.
Yeah. It's another one of those things. The other one was a spoon of stirring that you can just put into a cup and it just stirs for you. Very Harry Potter. Okay. All right. Okay. So it's super simple stuff. And the wizard chess set. You play chess and the pieces actually smash each other. A lot of these are pulled like from Harry Potter. If you hadn't figured it out, the only one that's not is the Book of Memories. I'm done.
I like that, man. I like that. I like to remember the bowl with memory, the bowl thing.
Remember.
Yeah. I was picturing like alphabet soup when you said that. I think that'd be cool. Like a bowl of soup that would spell something out. That's very cool.
It's funny
Oh,
you say
great
it,
sage stew. Tell me the.
it's
funny
like
that you
missing
say
a few
the-
letters because you ate spoonfuls. Was that Bear?
It's funny that you say the
Or-
book was the one thing that wasn't Harry Potter, because as you were going through it, all I could think of was the pensive from Harry Potter. That like takes your memories and stores them in this pool of water. It's just instead it's a book. But I'm 100% stealing the idea for a pop-out book that's just a magical illusion instead of crappy pieces of paper.
That's fun. I like that too. Very cool. AJ, what do you have for us? What magic item did you bring?
I went back to the trap scenario, and I thought, what is this gem that they were looking for? And I came up with the gem of shadow. So as far as you know, when you pick up this gem and you analyze its aura and stuff, it's a gem that will turn you invisible as long as you hold it. So it's incredibly powerful. Like attacking and stuff won't switch off this invisibility automatically. So you actually have to take it off somebody for them to become visible again. What you don't realize when you do that is that your shadow detaches from you and becomes a creature in and of itself, and it's working against you because it's sick and tired of being stuck with this schlub its entire life. And so it's like, the only way I'm going to get free is to kill this fool. And so it's actually working against you. See, if you know what the gem of shadow is and what it actually does, you can use magic to control that shadow. So you're invisible and directing your mind-controlled shadow to do your bidding while you're sitting silently in the background. And so mages are just like, I want this. But yeah, for the hapless adventurer who steals it and does the dirty and double crosses the mage who sent them in there, it could be their death.
I love it. I like items where it starts off looking like really good, like this is awesome, this is amazing, and then there's that hidden little dark side.
And who notices their shadow, honestly?
Yeah. Very cool. Bear Bard, what do you have for us? What magic item did you bring?
I said the last one, AJ. It's very Vashta Narada-esque. It's a spin on that Doctor Who reference for those who don't. But so as my players can attest, I'm not good with magic items. I'm just not gonna lie about it. As is evidence of last time when I had the glitter bag of holding. I'm just it's one of those things. It's a weak spot. It's like, cool, have your +2. It's magic. Have fun. So it's nothing too crazy. It's not as cool as the rest of y'all. We saved the worst for last, unfortunately. But it's the I called it the tickled breastplate of absolution. And so it's a super powerful breastplate. Probably going to be on your tanky guy. It's going to be plate.
Uh-huh.
It's big, it's grand, it's beautiful. Think, dwarvish carvings, and your tank's going to slap it on, and it's going to tickle him. And as long as he's wearing it, he is getting tickled the whole time. But it's like a beast. So you're getting like +3, +4. It has a chance to, if you die, if there's a hit that would take you to the ground, you have a chance to just shrug it off. Just this beast of a breastplate. But they have to pass a Constitution roll every time to see if the tickling gets to them. So it's one of those ones they're just going to keep around with them until right before the fight, slap it on, and then they're trying not to laugh the whole time. And you could treat it like I forgot the name, but a vicious laughter.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hideous
you can
laughter.
just, again, hideous laughter.
Mhm.
And so I always think there's a name attached to that spell. I don't know why.
Tasha.
Yeah.
Tasha's hideous laughter.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking Tasha's, but then I'm just like, no. I just figured, okay, so yeah, Tasha's hideous laughter. So yeah, you basically you have to roll to not have that spell basically thrown on you. But again, the trade-off you have to make worth it, because it's you fight a boss and you shrug off a blow from a dragon for the face.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, even if you do have it on, I mean, you're gonna probably suck at stealth checks.
Again, just every day, because it's literally just actively tickling you. You're not going to be able to do.
Yeah,
it's also an excellent torture device. Put this on a captive NPC.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh man.
Yeah, exactly. All the kinds of uses for it.
Wow, I like that magic item, man. I don't know what you're talking about. That's hilarious. I love it. That's good.
I'm with Wally. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. All right. Very cool, man. So those are some fun magic items that, some homebrew items that, we've come up with. Feel free to use them in your own home game. And of course, leave a comment below. What is your favorite homebrew magic item? What brings out the smiles or the giggles, when, in your game? So, with that, I see chat is very active. Very much appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Good to see everyone. Lots of great conversations in there. Thank you very much for participating. I'm actually going to turn over the reins to my co-host, and Fred is going to take us through our last couple of topics. And take it away.
Right, so this is often the section of our live stream that needs to be censored. So if you have issues with some of the things that can potentially, yes, Wally will be leaving shortly, more than likely, and it's his stream. So we're doing fun with monsters, and the first monster to discuss today is, what is a fun and interesting way to use a Faerie, okay, in a role-playing game? And when I say Faerie, I mean Faerie, okay? It's very simple. It's not confusing. It's a thing that has wings. It looks like a little humanoid. And I'm going to go straight to the person who I know has already talked about this sort of stuff, because I watched his video not that long ago. AJ, the Faerie, what have you got for us? Okay. Yes, mature audiences. We should be saying disclaimer, mature audiences are required. Thank you, AJ. It is definitely going to go that way. It always does. Okay, AJ, you're on.
Okay, so just making sure I'm not muted there. So the Feywild, it's taken me years to really wrap my head around the Feywild and what makes it tick. So it's adjacent to the astral realm. So it's a realm of thought and dreams and belief. And it manifests that way in that its physics is based on story. And if you look at the movie Labyrinth, where Jareth, the Goblin King, he's locked into the story. He can't get away from it any more than she can. But he's even more locked into it. So his entire existence is based around the story from this book. So the book is almost like a projection of the Feywild into the real world. That is a portal into it. So it's a portal, a story portal. As you start reading into it, it directs your thoughts and you get drawn into this fantasy realm. So the physics of the Feywild is based around story mechanics. And the way that you play on the story mechanics is the way that you use the Feywild you give that weird sort of dreamy, nonsensical, things don't make sense, sort of, Mad Hatter, giant rabbits growing and shrinking in size for no apparent reason, things happening instantaneously when your back is turned, and also the lack of understanding of the real world of creatures from the Feywild. So a fairy, if you tell them, if the fairy asks you, where did you come up with that beautiful song that I just heard you playing? You say, just from my head. It will cut your head open to find the music. It won't think anything of it. Just like, they're scary that way because they don't understand how it works. So they'll take you literally, if you got to be very careful about your metaphors and things like that around fairies. They don't get it, and also they have that childlike curiosity and pranky cruelty where they just don't care because things in the Feywild are ever present, and also they repeat. So something that has died last week may come back to life because the story started over again.
That's amazing.
So fairies can be spooky, scary in that way. And that's how I use them. And I like fairies because they're like la 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 la, and they're these beautiful little creatures of nature, but they're fickle and they're nasty. And nature is tooth and claw, really, when you think about it. So I think Werner Herzog said that it's just like it's just murder all the time in nature. And so the fairies are also all about that as well. It's just like, they're la 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 la, but they'll pluck your head like they pluck a berry. It makes no difference to them.
Lovely. Very fairy tale-ish of you, AJ.
Don't forget the grim fairy tales were grim.
Yeah, and they had fairies in them. Oh my. Okay, so we're looking for the Disney version of our fairy now, Dennis. Unless of course you don't have. I don't think we were going to get that from you. I suspect. Dennis, fairy, what have you got for us?
Well, I guess I could put a Disney spin on it for you if you'd like. I mean, you could go light or dark with this one. Well, sure, why not? So, one of the earliest memories of running D&D I have is going through and finding all of these like D100 tables online of random encounters. All right. I have since decided I don't actually like random encounters, but there's one thing on one of those tables that stuck with me. And that is a player wakes up in the morning and they find a fairy or a pixie or some small fairy-like creature living inside their boot, just sleeping there for the night. And I ran that through a session once, and it was, I was still new to it. I didn't know how to put, a truly awesome spin on it. I have since grown and learned, and now it's not only the fairy that's in the boot, but the fairy comes out. They have a lovely conversation. Maybe the players offer them some food. The fairy graciously accepts. They have a good little talk about what their respective worlds are like. And the fairy says, well, why don't I just show you? And they go back into the boot. And the player realizes that the bottom of their shoe, the sole, is now no longer there. The shoe is unusable because in place is a portal to the Fae realm. You could also put a comic Disney spin on it and say it was the druid's shoe or the barbarian's shoe, and they have notoriously smelly feet. But the fairy really enjoys the kind of scent that they have when they're taking a nap in that their shoe.
There was an old lady who lived in my shoe. She had so many children she didn't know what to do, so she put some in my nose and some in my ear. Some pantyhose in places where I could not bear.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't think Grand's Remedy is going to solve that issue with your shoe whatsoever in the slightest. But thank you for that, Dennis. We now know how to mess up your shoes sufficiently so that you can never use them properly again. Alex, fairies. You know all about fairies, don't you?
Yeah, growing up in the Northwest, that's just that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I take this a little bit different. I guess I was thinking more of like a single fairy as opposed to the world of fairies. I did always love that idea of it. What AJ was talking about with the they take things very literal. It's like I can't remember if it was either Mad TV or All That, but there was a sketch they did called The Literals, where it's this family that took everything literally.
That's awesome.
And so that's just like anytime someone used an expression, they just did it. So like, you literals kill me. They're like, okay. And so they kill them. That's the kind of vibes I get from that one. But how I like to use fairies is I like for them to be like an Andrew Ryan type of would you kindly situation. For those of you guys who don't know, BioShock, Andrew Ryan is the big bad guy. And your character through the whole game is being led on. I forgot the guy's name, but this random guy that you find, and every time he asks you to do something, he's like, you don't recognize it until the very end, but he's like, would you kindly just go over there and do that? And you do it because you were just given a mission in a video game. And then spoilers, I guess, for what a 15-year-old game at this point, but basically he's mind controlling you every time. Your trigger word is would you kindly, and then your character does it, and like in game, you do it because you're as the player, you're choosing to do it, but the game is saying, like, because he said, would you kindly, he controlled you to do it, and then that was your mission. You just accepted it because someone said to go do a thing. And so you end up like killing all the there's no real good guys in it, but you kill all these people because he said, would you kindly, and you were just given the mission to do it. And so for me, what I like to, the Faerie, I like to present them as like a good guy, because that's how he's presented. He's presented as like, he's a wife and kids, and you're just helping him. He's an engineer. He's in engineering. He just barely lived, and you're just trying to struggle together. So the Faerie presents itself as this like, oh my God, help me, I'm lost, save me. And then, you do. And then like, they're just like, you're trying to escape the situation together. And then you found out, like you're fighting the bad guy. And in the end, you find out, oh, are we the baddies kind of situation? You did all this stuff because, this Faerie skewed your perspective towards what they wanted. And you could even add a bit of a very magical element to it, where they maybe skewed your perspective. You could walk into a village and make everyone roll a really high perception check, and unless they get a 20, nobody sees it. And maybe at the end their memory goes back and maybe things look slightly different, and it's nothing big, but like banners, maybe instead of having the what you saw were like bad guy banners, those were actually the good guy banners that you knew ahead of time, that kind of thing. And so the Faerie again presents itself as like this nice, kind, loving, yay, but is actually the bad guy and forces you to then become the bad guys. And then you get to deal with the fallout and consequence from that, whether whether you try to repent or whether you just buy into it or whatever, you go from that point.
I like it. Like the reverse of They Live, that movie with Roddy Piper, where he puts on the sunglasses and he sees all the subliminal messages, but the Faerie's doing the reverse of that. She's putting the sunglasses on you and turns everything into an enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, Wally, buddy, I know you can do this. Faeries. Is there anything rattling around in there that you want to share with us today?
Well, now I want to do something around They Live, because that movie was awesome. Like a 3-hour fight scene in that whole thing.
Just put the goddamn sunglasses on, man.
Yeah.
Yes,
I do have something. I've used one recently and continuing to do this in a current campaign. And the Faerie that I'm using, and when I picture them, I like picture in my head like a Tinkerbell, or like on like Legend of Zelda, the little Faerie that comes out and cures you and stuff. So I'm thinking of this little humanoid figure that bounces around, floats around, and annoys you, or what have you. So I gave our wizard a magic item, and this is an amulet, and there is a Faerie that is bound to this amulet. And when our wizard is attuned to this amulet, this Faerie is constantly floating around. And what's cool about this little Faerie is that she will point out things that that she may not see. And so when I do that, I usually roll a d6, and I've got two different things of magic item cards. I have one that's actual magic items. That's the 6. And then I've got one that's called Fumbled Searches, and that is 1 through 5. And what has been fun for... My computer did the thing. Sorry.
It's just for a second.
It almost lost me. But what... that would be bad. But what has been fun for me on this is, because this Faerie points out stuff, and I'll just randomly be like, oh yeah, by the way, the Faerie goes over and points to something behind this table or behind this book or something like that. She thinks that all of these things are important. So she's accumulating all of this garbage. So for example, I'd be like, oh yeah, by the way, the Faerie that's floating around your head is pointing over to this vase. I'm like, okay, I'll go look at the vase. There's something in there. What is in there? And I thumb through my cards, and be like, you find a putrid old broken orc tooth. I wonder what that does. It's just garbage. and so now she's just fascinated about this putrid old broken tooth. And I'll have this fairy do this like during combat as well. It'll be like, it's your turn. Oh yeah, by the way, the fairy is like pointing to the hobgoblin satchel, saying there's something in there. And what that is a tattered and empty tattered and empty hammock or something. Just something strange, anything random. Yeah, that didn't come out very well, did it? How about a dirty yellowed hammock? And that's what's in there. And by the time they're like, oh yeah, you find out that the fairy pointed out it's a dirty old hammock.
It makes sense that a fairy would do that too, because those would be story leads. Something out of place in the scene would definitely attract a fairy's attention.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been fun, and it's just like I just do it whenever I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, the fairy's pointing at something, and she's like, I'll go and look. So she's got like keeps track of all of them. So she's got like a list of all these different things, and as of now, they're totally worthless. But who knows? Maybe we'll make them a magic item someday. So that's how I use the fairy in my game.
That reminds me very much of a very famous long campaign. This is the Salutation campaign that my friend Ian ran for like 9 years, where we had characters that ascended to godhood and became recurring characters of one of those campaigns. And there was a famous wizard in there who was a gnome called Brubalibilish, and his son Brubalibili. And he made magic items. One of them was the bowstring of wonder. So you string this thing on your bow and it fires ammunition that does crazy shit.
That's awesome.
And the other were a pair of spectacles. When you put the spectacles on, they reveal things about the magical world around you, but in the form of floating fairies who would go.
That's awesome. I love it.
It was crazy. Yeah, we love those goggles so much.
Very cool.
I love the idea of just. I'm surprised I've never done it, and I'm going to do it all the time now that you've told us about it, Wally. Just the DM pointing out random things that don't have anything to do with the story and never will, but it sends the players off on a tangent for however long they want to be on a tangent. You'll find this old orc tooth. You can do all the investigating you want, burn some identify spell slots on it to figure out what it does, find out it does nothing, get angry at the DM, move on, and he does it again the next session.
Does anybody in chat know why that story element is called a red herring?
What is a red herring actually? Is a red herring actually related to the concept of the red herring, or is it got some sort of strange tie-in? I don't understand.
I don't know. Yeah, but that's what it's called in the story. It's a red herring. It's something that distracts you and leads you off in a different direction.
Maybe in the past, people when they saw a red herring, an actual red herring bird, that they would get distracted and try to track it down and wind up in stupid places.
No, it's actually in reference to being very, very, very smoked. So you put the herrings up in the chimney and they'd get smoked so much that they'd turn red. And you do that with meat as well.
Okay.
Yeah, the term was popularized in 1807 by English polemist William Cobert, who told a story of having to use strong-smelling smoked fish to divert and distract hounds from chasing a rabbit.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia.
Right.
Smoked
Did
fish.
the exact same thing you did, Alex.
So going back to the red herring, clearly we were talking about the fairy, but we've gone off on a red herring, and now we're talking about red herrings. For those of you
Bringing it back.
For those of you who are wondering how we got to red herrings, so I have two stories for the fairy. I'm going to be very quick about them because otherwise I don't want you to fall asleep. So my first one is I was running a 4E campaign, and one of my groups was playing a vampire, and another one was actually playing a pixie. And so I decided to have a group of fairy vampires sitting on a mushroom that they would come across while they were traveling down yes, that's right, mature audience is required. While they were traveling down the yellow brick road. Yes, I know I used the Wizard of Oz in this. Okay, give me a break. I was drawing from everywhere I could. So they were traveling down the yellow brick road. They come across these fairy vampires, and these fairy vampires wanted a toll, and they were complete asses. Like, it didn't matter what they were trying to do. There was always a problem. In the end, it wound up with the pixie player getting bitten by one of the vampires and turning into a pixie vampire. So if you really want to mess with your players because they've decided to play like snowflake characters such as vampires that can walk around in the daytime wearing SPF 9000 and playing pixies that can fly over all your traps and get past all of your hazards. Throw some Faerie vampires at them, and that'll sort out a lot of your problems. Or it will simply tank your campaign completely, and you won't have to put up with doing it anymore because it'll all just explode. Okay, the last story is far more entertaining. For those of you who are game masters and have suffered the indignity of having one of the players transform themselves into a giant ape or into a T-Rex and then just run through your monsters and chomp them to pieces, throwing them everywhere and generally causing huge amounts of strife, throw about... I would say I've been using the pixie, but you use a Faerie. You use a Faerie because a Faerie can be invisible, and it's not like it's casting the invisibility spell, so they're always invisible. It doesn't matter what they're doing. So you don't have to worry about that nonsense. They don't play by those rules. And they can cast polymorph because Faeries tend to be able to change people's and transform them. So what you do is you have about 4 Faeries to every single player character to ensure that you get maximum coverage and actually be able to humiliate your players. Okay, and you transform them all into rabbits for an hour so they have to run around in the forest. Okay, I can tell you now, I don't know how it is, but apparently the idea of rabbits copulating with player characters, suddenly they're all rabbits and they can't do anything else, or you turn them into snails and you get them, you get the Faeries to use them for snail races and on a plank of or branch or something like, or a stone. I've done that a few times, but yeah, very entertaining, quite humiliating, and you don't have to kill them. And there's not an awful lot they can do because you're going to use about 4 Faeries for every single player character. So yes, is this where you get good Game Master advice or a bad Game Master advice?
I don't even know what just happened.
Fred, I like to imagine your table is just all you guys just trying to screw each other over.
That's
just the point of your table.
My groups have been like this. Like I used to use the plot twist cards, and they used to use the cards initially just to get past everything, and then they used to screw each other over constantly with them. And I'm sitting back there, and I'm like, I don't have to do any work. They're doing all the work for me. And nowadays, my group love it when they die because it's like everybody just starts yelling, reincarnate, reincarnate, reincarnate. Like, oh, okay, someone's going to wind up something strange. So yes, yeah, I don't know. This is what happens when you've been playing with the same group for about 8 years. Anyway, I'm done. That's the Faerie. Did anybody else have anything else they wanted to add?
I love Faerie vampires. That's all there is to it. It's almost like there'd be like mosquitoes almost be like because they're trying to bite.
So yeah. Fred, it's funny that you mentioned someone turning into a T-Rex and destroying your hard work because I had a Christmas campaign where but the player was a Faerie. So how do you do that? You have the character is already a Faerie, and they turned into a T-Rex and destroyed all my elves.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've got a Faerie in the party, then you just have to make sure that you're casting polymorph on them first. Do you know what I mean? Because once they've been transformed to a rabbit and a snail, I'm pretty sure rabbits and snails can't cast spells. Do you know what I mean? Unless, of course, your world has rabbits and snails that cast spells. So my understanding is that you are essentially that creature once you transform and polymorph. It's not like you can fly around as a bird and still cast spells. You're a bird for the duration of the spell. And if it isn't that way, just change it. Just change it. Just change it. You know?
Very cool.
All right. So it sounds like we're done with the Faerie. Look, can I just say that the Faerie is, if you look at the folklore behind the Faerie, you have the good and the bad. As AJ was saying, it kind of goes both ways, and they're not always small. Sometimes they're actually quite large.
Mm-hmm.
So Faerie is not an indication of size.
Where you see one Faerie, it's like they're never by themselves. There's an indication that the Feywild is impinging on your world. So there's some focus or story element like a magical pumpkin or a shoe, or it could be any object in the area that's got a story attached to it, which is attracted to the Feywild. And so, you're going to have all sorts of fairies around the place. So you see one, there's always another one somewhere.
Well, you probably won't even see the Faerie, right? You'll probably hear them before you ever see them. You might hear a little bit of singing or some music. You might hear some laughing, usually some laughing, followed by turning into rabbits. But, and snails or various other things, or something else going on, maybe, insects descend or bees attack you. So, that's the Faerie.
Speaking of things that show up when the Feywild is around, the very worst thing that can show up is our next monster.
Yes. Now, the Bogeyman is really, really odd in that the Bogeyman has existed pretty much for like so long and across so many different cultures. The actual theme to what they do is, I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's going to get explained in a second by I know who, AJ. So let's look at, because I'm going to point you in the direction of AJ first. So what is a fun and interesting way to use the Bogeyman in your role-playing games? And considering it covers almost every culture under the sun and it goes back so far, there's actually a lot to draw from, and also it can be it's muddied waters as well. So, AJ, the Bogeyman, what can you do with that, baby?
Well, in the Forgotten Realms, they're called boggles. They're from British and Scottish folklore, but they are also called the bugbear. So, take that what you will. Bugbears, of course, are specialists in sneak attack, hiding and stuff, and they're this great big horrible monster that can pop out of a tight space and that it should not have been able to fit in and nab you, or in the case of bugbears, stab you and repeatedly. So boggles are a very nice version of the Bogeyman, but in history, they specialists in fear. So the idea that there's this horrible, slimy creature that basically subsists on fear, and they will target the person who feels the most fear, and the most fear, of course, is from children. So they are the classic Feywild creature that will crawl out from underneath the bed and scare the piss out of your children, so that they go screaming and running to you. And as soon as you show up and look under there's nothing to be seen because the boggles retreated back to the Feywild. But the thing is that they heal themselves through fear. Fear is that story element which nourishes them and drives them. And they are attracted to places where there is some tragedy or horror or everybody's on edge. So, for instance, if you were in a Ravenloft setting and the populace is constantly terrified of vampires, the boggles will be playing on that fear and imitating vampire sounds and leaving cats and things that are drained of all their blood around as if there's vampires that are visiting your house, to raise that tension level. So when they pop up, they get the maximum juicy fear out of you, and just your hate makes me powerful sort of thing. Yeah. So they're nasty, nasty creatures. But that's, you could say, no, they're not necessarily evil because that's just the way that they are. That's how they feed. They're not doing it to be malicious. No, they're doing it to be malicious. They like it.
Okay, so it's pretty obvious we know that the Bogeyman is, if you look at folklore, the Bogeyman is usually targeting children. It's usually to cause fear. And I feel like it's probably very much a product of parents scaring the bejesus out of their children so they don't get up to mischief. Because Bogeyman used to show up for naughty children who did things they weren't supposed to do or weren't in bed when they were supposed to be in bed. And how do the parents, even 100, 200, 300 years ago, how do you get them to stay in bed? If you don't go to bed right now, the Bogeyman's going to get you. Like that's the general theme behind almost all of the Bogeyman stories.
Even Krampus, the cousin of Santa Claus, was you don't see him in Western culture, but in Eastern culture you certainly see him, like Eastern European. So Krampus gives all of the teenage boys in the village an opportunity to dress up like a horrible monster and then basically grab children, younger children, and take them off and do horrible pranks to them. If you just assume they've been naughty during the year, and so the Krampus would put them in a sack, take them out into the woods, and beat them with iron chains, and then take them home again. Yeah. Be good, or the Krampus will get you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, an expert in this field, or one of the experts in this field, is Alex. Bearbard has children, so you must know all about the Bogeyman and the Bogeyman stories, because you've got to be one of those parents who tells that story, right? Surely.
It's so funny that you mentioned it, because it's like, you're like, oh yeah, it's how you keep parents in bed. No, that's how you stay up all freaking night. I'm censoring myself with a scared child, like, "Oh, he's gonna get me. He's gonna get." We tried it on my son. It didn't work. He was like, he can't. He had to sleep in our bed for that night because it's like the attempt was made, but it didn't work out for us. But so yeah, use it on your children to your own effect. As far as mine goes, a thing with me is I like to change things up a little bit. And so what I like to do, and I've started using it before, and the campaign fizzled up, but this was the plan. Basically, before certain events, bigger events, whether it was something that could be scary or a big battle or just a major negative, what could be considered a negative event, they would, in their dreams the night before, they would dream about this horrible, nasty, disfigured being reaching out to them. It would never touch them. It would never do anything else, but it would be there and it would almost be like a beckoning almost, but it felt kind of off. They take it as this beckoning, but it's almost like telling them to like go away. And you just keep this up through a campaign every time, or you can use, more sparingly over major events. You don't want to do it every time, but major events, this nasty disfigured character is kind of reaching out. And so it kind of leads them down this path of like, oh my God, it's trying to get us, or it's causing this. And the reality of the situation is it's actually warning them. It's not, it's an omen, but it's trying to save them. It's saying, they can't understand the language, and maybe again through the campaign they could learn, for however they come across this language. But this figure is actually trying to warn them and stay away from it. It's trying to save their lives because it doesn't want them to fall into this situation. It doesn't want them to fight the dragon. It doesn't want them to get hurt. And so then they start, the ideas that they would start to investigate. Well, why is this figure trying to save us? Turns out it's the little boy who cried wolf. The wolf got to him, and now he gets to spend eternity disfigured from being torn apart by a wolf, but trying to save others from danger, the danger that he, fucked up in his life, and now gets to try to spend his time saving adventures and saving others from those dangers.
That's amazing.
Very A Christmas Story. I'm constantly thinking of Marley and Scrooge, their conversation.
Yeah.
That would tie in very well with that aboleth creature too. I feel like it hideously mutates you and turns you into a slimy monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Don't go
Yes.
into the thing.
I was saying it's a
Psychic
thing. I
stuff,
like the
dream
slow burn.
themes.
I said I like the slow burn. I like that reveal at the end. I like something because, like, you get the short term boost of whatever. That's good. You need to keep people excited. But I like the slow burns. I like something that can be led up to and reveals itself. So
Yeah, that's
Well,
really
okay.
cool. What a great idea.
Slow burn Bogeyman story by Bearbard.
good guy,
Okay.
Boogeyman.
Well, it's good to know. So for those of you who needed advice on bringing up children, don't use the Bogeyman story. It's good to know. Thank you for that very much. Dennis, bring us a Bogeyman story. What have you got for us?
It sounds like I found about the same thing that most everyone else did about the Bogeyman. Especially all I found, Fred pretty much summed up very well. It's a story used to scare children into going to bed or eating their vegetables or something along those lines. And so I decided we're going to take it this direction and say we're mixing the Boogeyman and the Faerie and the Fae, where stories come to life. There aren't actually any boogeymen. They don't really exist until a parent tells a story about it. And in that telling of the story, the parent unknowingly creates this thing that is after their children. And the source of this could be anything you want. It could be the setting itself, like this evil magic in the land is making these horrible stories come true when they're told. Or it's this eavesdropping wizard that loves to play terrible pranks on, this village. But it is anything that the parent describes ends up being a part of what that creature is. They say he's got claws, he's got claws. They say he's got too many eyes all over everywhere. They say you never see him, you never do. All you ever do is hear and feel it. It could be, depending on how creative the parents get with terrifying their children into bed, you can get some pretty nasty monsters.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It almost feels like they've plugged the Bogeyman through Midjourney, the artificial intelligence art creation software that you can use online, and you wound up with something that you really didn't want.
Many monsters in D&D use the name that other cultures use for Bogeyman, like the Babao devils, for instance, are Bogeymen in Italian culture.
Yeah, there's a few in there. Okay, Wally, Bogeyman. Have you got a Bogeyman story? And not that Bogeyman. Right. What
I'm just thinking of Chat GP Bogeyman right now.
Boogerman.
Boogeyman. Yeah. So the Boogeyman.
I made a homunculus, but I made it the wrong way.
Yeah. The Boogeyman grew up in the 70s, loved the Bee Gees and Kool and the Gang. Loved the boogie. Bogeyman. Very good. Wait.
Tasha's hideous dancing.
Back to that. So I've got actually a few ideas. None of my ideas are finished. I can't decide on one, so I'm going to rattle them all off, and you can do with those what you will. Immediately, I think of the kids show Monsters Inc., where they go through, they have the closet doors or whatever, and their job is to scare children. And of course, if I'm going to use the Bogeyman in a fantasy RPG, of course it's going to exist. And so a few of the ideas that I came up with, some are not very good and some are even worse. But the first one is, I picture the Bogeyman coming out from like behind, underneath the bed. And then, the child will hear him, hear it scratching and stuff like that. You like, go to sleep, blah, 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 whatever. And it always, the kid will hide under the blankets and it's always carrying a briefcase. Like what, the kid's like wondering and, but stays in bed because he's petrified. And they're like 4 hours later, the Bogeyman comes back and the kid hides under the covers and goes back under the bed. But one of these times, this little kid gets really brave and follows the Bogeyman downstairs. And actually the Bogeyman is the DM for his parents, and they have like this RPG game within an RPG game, and is actually the game master, and he goes down there and so that was my fourth wall Bogeyman. I told you, and it's just going to get worse from here so hold on to your seats, hold on to your keyboards. Here we go. Another one that I thought of is kids usually grasp like stuffed animals or whatever when they're afraid, that blankets, maybe they have a favorite blanket. Maybe they have a teddy bear or something like that. So in this story, our NPC child is going to have a teddy bear that he grasp onto. He initially seen the Bogeyman. His parents bought this for him, but like, here, teddy bear will keep you safe and blah blah blah. But Bogeyman still shows up, and we'll make this one in the closet. So he like opens the closet. And he's just like, I see you. And just like, I'm going to get you and stuff like that. Just keeps staring. Scares the shit out of this kid. Well, eventually, maybe this is where your adventurers come in and they're investigating. Maybe they're invisible and they sit there and they watch and they witness all of this themselves. But the Bogeyman isn't after the kid. There's a little demon inside that little teddy bear that it's after, and it's trying to be able. It can't get out of that closet. It's still like there's some type of something keeping it there. But he comes out and he threatens the teddy bear, because if he didn't, then the teddy bear would take care of the kid. So, so that's one, a little bit of reverse. And then
maybe the Bogeyman can't touch moonlight.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, moonlight coming through the thing. So the best that he can do to help protect this kid from evil teddy bear is to just, make sure he threatens it. And then the final idea that I had was the bogeyman's just a dick. He comes out, the little kid, maybe they had All Hallows Eve, comes back with all this candy, and bogeyman's got like a chair in the corner, and the kid wakes up and the bogeyman's like eating all his candies. He looks over and like, what are you gonna do, kid? What are you going to do? Like take like his homework and write all over his homework. Maybe he'll go through his things and mismatch his socks, like put the blue socks with the red socks or just crazy stuff like that. And again, your adventurers come in to investigate or whatever else. And then they're going to find out that that's actually that kid as an adult. So that's the kid's future self. And it's like terrifying his younger self as a bogeyman. That's all I got.
That's great. There's a couple of stories. One is that short story internet phenomenon that was on a while ago called Flick or something like that, where the woman's standing in the corridor and every time she turns the light out, she can see a shadowy creature, and it gets closer every time she turns the light off and the shadow's closer, but when she turns the light on, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then when finally she's like hiding under the covers and she flicks the light on, and it's like right over her bed, and then the lights, and it turns the light off. It's like, oh, God.
I'm trying to sleep.
It's fantastic. Awesome. And there was another one, which was, I think it was a Stephen King or Steven Spielberg short story thing. It was linked together with a cat called Cat's Cradle. And there was a toy, like a marionette clown. It's always got to be a clown, doesn't it? Perfect little bogeyman. It's like a little stuffed clown thingy. And yeah, this little thing was an evil, it was like a possessed doll, essentially. Yeah, but possessed with some sort of fey creature entity.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so the bogeyman dressing up as a toy, as a child's toy, and hiding in the room. It's just like you're looking around. It's like, wait a minute, that stuffed toy isn't. Oh God! Yeah.
Play with me.
I'll be your bestest friend forever.
Best friends for life, you and me.
So we just made Chucky, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if those of you who are unsure what we've been doing, we've been taking the bogeyman and not terrifying your player characters, but trying to come up with ways to terrify children. This is what happens on Wally's channel. If you didn't know during a live stream, we come up with highly offensive and inappropriate topics focused around torturing children.
That is not true.
It's not true. It's not
fake
true.
news. Fake news.
Fake news. Fake news. So my ideas, I had 4 written down here, of which I think maybe only 1 is usable, but the rest I'm going to talk about very quickly because they made me chuckle. So the first one is like having a bogeyman who is the babysitter. So you've got children who are terrified of a bogeyman. And one day, the parents say, look, we're going to get a babysitter to look after you. You keep worrying about there being a bogeyman out there. And the babysitter turns out to be the issue because they're in disguise. They've disguised themselves as somebody relatively innocent that you should be able to trust. And in fact, it is the bogeyman. Then they will, of course, steal them away, because this is often the story behind the bogeyman, is the bogeyman would steal people away, but particularly children, and then eat them. And in this case, your heroes are going to have to go and save the children from being eaten or tortured. I think there used to be a little bit around here where if it wasn't so much to punish, the bogeyman wasn't there to punish the children, it was to punish the parents for bad parenthood, for just not being very good at parenting. And so they would steal the children away and feed them poo. I finally managed to say the word poo again on Wally's channel. And I don't understand how it is that this punishes the children, the parents, but it certainly seems like it's punishing the children. So you've got to go and save them from being eaten or having to eat poo, okay, in your campaign. So that was my first idea, wrapped in sort of 2 different ideas.
That was a crappy idea.
It was a very, very crappy idea. The next one is that you have the bogeyman is in fact your next door neighbor who has a dog who's frankly quite obnoxious and just causes you so much trouble. It tries to attack you and bite you. It's constantly barking at you. And one day, the players' characters will show up and they'll have no choice but to kill the dog. Okay? What? They'll kill the dog, and the bogeyman will get so upset, he'll go on a killing spree, trying to wipe them out and everybody else in town. Chung, 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 chung. Has anybody figured out what I've just done here? Has anybody figured out what I've just done?
So we have John Wick.
Yes, we have. And we have John Wick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can follow that up. You can follow that up later on once you've dealt with that bogeyman. Okay, and he's gone on a revenge spree because you killed his obnoxious dog. You can follow that up with the old lady next door who has a cat. She's actually the bogeyman. Okay, that'll be
is that
the second one.
Is that Joanna Wick?
I guess so. Joanna Wick, Jane Wick. I can't. One of those.
I think in classic sort of D&D thing, the babysitter that shows up in disguise would be the hag, because the hags disguise themselves as a beautiful woman, and then later on. But she steals away the children, and the children become the bogeymen, and she's actually stealing away the children to transform them into, or what they basically do is the hag will eat the baby and then birth a monster. And you see that in Game of Thrones a little bit, where she takes a bit of the royal blood and turns it into she does the nasty with the royal and then births a monster, because it's that royal blood has magic to it. So the hags do the same sort of thing in folklore and stuff, and it's been represented in various things. The idea about having a next door neighbor's dog who just like absolutely hates you. I've certainly had dogs like that when I was growing up. You know, they just hate you in general principle because you're the other who's always next door, and it's just like bark, bark, bark. But if you get bitten by that dog, you turn into a were arsehole. So when the moon is full, you go around spoiling milk and wrecking people's gardens.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't expecting that to come out of your mouth,
Totally
maybe that'll be
fine
another
the
video.
rest of the month.
I mean,
for the boogeyman.
The only image I have is a bum with the arse crack covered in hair. It's a weird asshole.
Oh my gosh, here we go. Here we go.
Okay. Last idea.
Before you continue, Fred, just a shout out to Norak on the super chat. Hey, thank you very much. Norak says that Faeries and the Boogeyman couldn't be a better roundtable discussion. Loving the dark campaign, so this is a blast. Thank you, Norak. I appreciate the super chat, and this is really going off the rails. So everybody, hold on tight, and put your seatbelt on. Here we go.
Okay, the last idea, and actually, Wally, I'm going to capitalize down on what you had kind of pointed to, and what I want is a bogeyman who's just trying to get by, hasn't been able to get things to work for them properly. They're just trying to get by from day to day, and they wind up having to work in a nightclub. And while they're working in this nightclub, they discover that they're actually really good at dancing. Okay, and so you know where we're going with this, aren't you?
The boogeyman, yeah.
The boogeyman. We've got to do it. You've got to have a scary boogeyman. Yeah. You've got to do the John Travolta thing. I mean,
huge platform heels.
Yeah, exactly. Open shirt. I would do it to myself, but I don't think you'd be able to survive the impact, so we won't do that today. But yeah, so John Travolta, the boogeyman, in a nightclub, trying to get by. Would like to go back to, actually doing what he does best, which is stealing children away and scaring the bejesus out of them, and generally doing all sorts of things, feeding them poo and, eating them, or just terrorizing and upsetting the parents, things like that.
Wow.
That was my last idea. How are we doing? Are you guys all right?
I think so. I like that idea of the bogeyman going to work. I don't think I'd have mine work in a dance club or anything, but I'd have mine that has an office job that they just absolutely hate, and they work third shift. And the portal from the Fae realm to the material plane where they work at is underneath the bed of this child, and so they're grumpy as shit. They haven't had their coffee yet. They just rolled out of bed, and they get out and they're just angry and mad and throwing the kid stuff around as he stomp off to work.
Okay, so professions that would be ideal for a boogeyman. Tax auditor, internet security specialist, insurance assessor. What else?
Tax collector.
Tax collector, yeah, for sure. Oh, debt collector in general. Yeah. Oh, the people who sell you insurance. It's like, oh well, you never know when accidents could strike.
I used to work in insurance.
So what you're really saying is the real boogeymen were the 9-to-5s we worked along the way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That is so terrible. Hey, is there anything else that people would like to say, either related to the boogeyman or just to get a laugh? Because I feel like we've just about rolled everything together that we possibly can out of this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That looks good.
Maybe as a palate cleanser. I don't know how you guys feel about this. And I don't know how Wally feels about this, but maybe as a palate cleanser, I have a question I would like to ask and suggest that we talk about very briefly.
Oh, AJ's coming back.
He's getting his palate cleanser ready now.
Talking about that reminded me of ginger, which is a palate cleanser for after you eat sushi, and I remembered that I've got a pickled boogeyman right here.
Oh, nice.
That is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat it. Yeah.
I'll give you $5 super chat to drink it all right now.
Well, it's been in here since 1970, so no.
That's bad.
Wow. Okay.
So here is, I'm trying to wrap my head around some of the things that have been going on recently, and oh god,
you miss G3.
Well, of course it needs to be. Wally, how do you feel about us asking the question around the Dungeons and Dragons Minecraft? Because for the life of me, I was trying to get my head around that. And it's very tabloidy as a topic. We don't really do that here. How do you feel about talking about that one?
I don't even know what Minecraft is.
Well, let me look. So I
know it's a kid's game. It's like Legos with blocks or something.
Son is fucking obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Minecraft is for squares.
Okay. Do we want to discuss? Do we want to discuss D&D Minecraft? Because I could not. I always suffered a heart attack when I saw this. I didn't really understand what was going on, and then I had an epiphany. It's like, oh, I see. How do we feel about this question? Or should we just go? Should we go? Go.
It's up to you guys. I've got a really simple take on it. I mean,
yeah, good. There you go. I know what AJ's taken on this, so that's not an issue.
People like it. Good for them.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I am too. I mean, that's there's a lot of things that just if they're not for you, they're not for you. And there a lot of times, companies aren't going to hit a home run all the time. So if they try something and it works, that's great. It brings more people into the game. That's great. If it doesn't work, then there's people that are employed that will suffer the consequence of that. But like, hey, we put a lot of this money out trying to bring people into the game and it didn't work, so you're in trouble. So
yeah,
I never
yuck other people's yum. I'm not here to tell people how to play the game. I'm just here to inspire them with ideas to play if they want to. Shout out to Jacob. The idea of a boogeyman therapist is fantastic as well.
Very nice.
Nice.
I love that.
Did you want to
I'll be the
oh, go ahead.
Shall I present this?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I know about it, because I've got a piece of paper in front of me, which I've been looking at and deciding whether I want to do anything with it at all. So Dungeons and Dragons Minecraft. So apparently they're creating a DLC, downloadable content, which I'm sure is going to be attached with microtransactions, story-driven for Minecraft around Dungeons and Dragons. And it's supposed to be an adventure exploring the Forgotten Realms. Oh, what a surprise! The Forgotten Realms again. Playing classic D&D characters like, I think there's 4 or 5 of them. I won't tell you what they are. I don't care. Battling monsters, your usual, your beholder, your mimic, your mind flayer, dragons, gelatinous cube. Dragons belong to anything, so it's not like it's a big deal. And mind flayer is basically an illithid. Visiting locations like Candle Keep, Icewind Dale, featuring a custom combat system. Of course it is. It's got 10 hours of narrative gameplay. You can equip gear, of course.
Wow, that's better than the latest Diablo.
That's a good sign. That's a good
It
sign.
sounds like a great game so far to me.
Yeah, this thing is supposed to be getting released on all modern platforms, which I think also means phones. And I wasn't thinking very clearly about that initially. The release date is supposed to be spring of 2023 in North America, which frankly, I have no idea when the heck that is. I'm sure you guys do understand that, but I got confused when I was trying to figure it all out.
Well, it's autumn for us, right?
Yeah, it'd be autumn for you.
Which is autumn now. So
Yeah.
I don't. So where is it?
So
Didn't show up.
so it'll be between March and June.
Okay. So I guess my question is, let's start with Alex. You've got kids, and I heard you mutter something about Minecraft. I'm trying to get my head around this. What do you think about releasing something like Minecraft D&D? Because I thought that Minecraft was a blocky, kind of stupid game that was released back in 2011. It's been around for like more than a decade. Who the heck is still playing this thing, and why would you even bother?
Yeah. Okay, so I guess a couple things with this. I think the problem with this particular group is we all missed it. We were all too old. I don't know, okayist. I don't know how old you are, but I think for the most part, all of us kind of missed it. We all were past the target audience when it came out. So I think that's going to be the biggest problem. At its core, as much as I always like to be a contrarian and like, if it's popular, it's dumb, and I have a tendency towards that. I think that as far as like the games that got crazy popular, seeing my son's 4.5, and I really limit his screen time and stuff, but I've let him play some of that because I think that there's a lot of benefit to it because it's basically Legos. Think of it as like a new age digital Legos, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot more to, there's a lot more this, that, or the other to it, but seeing him interact and like start to work through problems, and again, he's 4.5 and very short attention span, and so but seeing him being able to be creative and start building things, and I put it on creative mode, which means they don't have the survival aspect to it, and so he just gets to build, and like he discovered just even playing through menus, he played through menus and discovered he can create animals and creatures, and so he just we're building a house together on there because I'd never played it before, and up until literally 2 months ago, I literally never played that game once. I played it once for 5 minutes. So that being said, I think that at the core, Minecraft, if you enjoy it, if it's for you, that's great. I don't. It's not really for me, which is funny because I loved Legos back in the day, but it just never clicked with me. As far as D&D, as far as D&D with it, it's kind of a tough one because it's just like the annoying guy on the internet. It's just like, oh, that's dumb. It's a cash grab or whatever. And it is. At the end of the day, it is a cash grab. But at the same time, if it's a way for these younger people to discover, maybe not, who cares about D&D so much, but think of it as just like that idea of fantasy. Because a lot of fantasy is like, people just don't do fantasy, right? I mean, just overall, there's a lot of or if there is fantasy, it's a lot of mature stuff, right? Or just being done very, very bad, unfortunately. And so if it's a way for these kids to be able to get just a taste of paladins and warlocks and, dragons and all this stuff, that's great, because it's Minecraft as a way. And so for me, it's like, I'm going to play an RPG. I'm just going to play an RPG. I'm not going to play this weird blocky version of it. That doesn't appeal to me. But my son, it puts it in a way that he can see it. He's 4.5. If he sees a dragon in D&D, it's not going to be scary to him. It's a way for you to kind of introduce these concepts and ideas and really get the brain flowing. Because that's the thing with fantasy, with getting into this stuff is you get the creative juices going. My son's teacher was like, oh, he's so creative. He does this stuff. It's because, when I make up stories about elves and wizards and warlocks and stuff like that. And I've tried playing a little bit of like a very abridged version of a D&D with them and stuff like that. Very abridged, but it helps that creativity. And so if there's a way for kids, not to get long-winded, I'm sorry, I taken up too much time, but if there's a way for kids to be able to see the stuff in a way that's presentable to them without being too annoying, without being this, that, or the other. I think it's cool. It's not for me. For me, I don't care. I didn't even I remember seeing it mentioned and I just looked up what it was. But it's not for me. And that's what I have to remember as a grown man, past 30, I have to remember it's not for me. And I think it's one of those things that, while being a cash grab, as long as it's done well and it's not sitting there trying to force more purchases and stuff like that, cool. There's worse things for kids to be getting into than something that they can build and create and grow and develop their brains that way.
D&D didn't get me into D&D. Like when I was a kid, and I'm 50 now, but I can remember what it was like to be a kid. That's the benefit of having my horrific memory. The things that were outside of my norm, like the first fantasy elements that I came across was choose your own adventure stories, and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis and stuff like that, and books in schools was what got me. So the fantasy cover, a mouse with a sword, that was all it took. And the choose your own adventure books got me into the idea of I've got control over the story. And the game mechanics and stuff, I ignored that. I didn't pay any attention to that. I just put my thumb in the thing and skipped over the combat and just played through the books and the story and went from page to page. Then, of course, I see the red box set for Dungeons and Dragons, and so I'm already being funneled into that thing, and the Minecraft D&D thing is a funnel for kids to get an understanding of what fantasy is. So that hooks them, and then, of course, the cynical side of me, the Mr. 50-year-old AJ, is going, Wizards of the Coast just needs a constant stream of 9-year-olds, so they'll play their virtual tabletop and do the microtransactions. Yes. But that is an audience that's going to turn into adults. They're going to get tired of that sort of thing. They're going to want to play richer story narrative games, and they're going to look at why was everybody obsessed with, why has this persisted for so long? And then they'll come across, people used to sit around the table with books and they'd share a meal and stuff. And it's like, well, we're adults now, and I haven't seen my friends in ages, so maybe I'll give it a go, because it seems like they built their whole social circle around this sort of thing. And there you go. That's where the next generation of role players and stuff will come from. It's just that funnel. Wizards of the Coast has put D&D in schools, and they've said that 10 million children have had exposure to Dungeons and Dragons through this program. I don't believe those numbers, but if it's anything close to that, that's absolutely fantastic. That's far more than choose your own adventure books and stuff ever drew into it. But that's the beauty of it. We got to build that language in them first, and by any means necessary, really. And even if it is through a cynical corporation that's doing it, they've got that mass market reach that my little YouTube channel can't get. So yeah, they're pushing it into the mainstream media, and unfortunately, it turns it into something tacky that we don't like. But the end effect is still much greater.
Dennis, what did you think of the Minecraft D&D that was being put forward?
So this is actually the first I'm hearing of it, and to preface everything I'm about to say, I am not yet 30. I'm currently 27. So I was there when Minecraft came out and was getting popular. My friends were playing it. I never really got into it. I dabbled. I know the controls. I know in general what happens in the game. And I think there is actually, there's enough overlap where I think, like, from a business perspective, amazing for both parties. I think that one of my favorite things, and a lot of people's favorite thing about, playing role-playing games, is going, ooh, I know what that is. I'm a big fan. I'm excited to have it in my own game. And that's exactly what this is doing. I just went on D&D Beyond, looked it up, and downloaded Monsters Compendium Volume 3 Minecraft Creatures. It's their most recent thing, it looks like. And I don't know if it's because of the settings I have on D&D Beyond, but it was free. And they've got, a couple of, Minecraft monsters. Like, oh my God, it would be really cool if you could fight a creeper, which is like the famous Minecraft creature that walks close to you. You hear it, tss, and then it blows up. Like you can actually have that in your own game. And for kids that, you know, played a lot of Minecraft, having this in D&D, I think is a fantastic way, like AJ was saying, of getting them to play this other game that is more than just putting blocks on other blocks in certain ways to make them go. There is a little bit of more overlap that I immediately thought of when I heard Minecraft and D&D, and that is exploration. In Minecraft, you play in a world that is procedurally generated. Every single time you start a new game, it's going to be different. There's going to be different biomes in different places, and you can go explore that stuff. Just like starting out in a D&D campaign, you can go outside of your home village and go explore and find new things. So I think people that enjoy that aspect of Minecraft are going to really lean hard into that aspect of D&D when they port their new interest over.
Nothing excites me more in Minecraft when I come across some hidden ruin or some mine shaft, thingy, or, a big natural chasm. I just love that shit. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Wally, about Minecraft and D&D?
Yeah. Basically, how I kick things off, not everything's going to be for everybody. Wizards of the Coast partners with people to do things because there's a chance that it could help both companies. It could help Minecraft, it could help D&D, or it might not. They might make a bad decision and, things fall flat. But they're trying to grow the hobby, and that's one of the ways that they can try to grow the hobby. No different than all of us here. We're all here to chat together, but if we were to take a business look at it, maybe by being on my channel, you get a few new subscribers. Like, hey, I like Wally, and I like this guy too. And then if I go on somebody else's channel, they see me there. So it's a way for us to intermix audiences there. People see other channels with similar content they like, and the same things with that. I mean, this stuff's been going on for years. I mean, how many different versions of Monopoly is there? I mean, there's a Monopoly board game for every interest in the world, and yeah, I mean, if we're there's some of us that might feel exhausted about that, but if it opens the gate to new players, I mean, what if 5 years from now I sit down at a table and be like, and a GM runs a game for me, and I'm just like, dude, you are a really good game master. I was like, how did you get into D&D? And be like, yeah, strange thing, I started playing Minecraft, and I was really fascinated with these monsters. There's something called the Beholder, and I was like, no idea what that was. And then I started doing research. I found that it was a game called Dungeons and Dragons, and then I started doing some research on that, and I started playing the game. I'm just like, that's awesome, man. If that crossover never would have happened, I might not have had that experience with that guy. So, so as far as all of this stuff, Wizards is, I mean, they're a business. They're trying to grow their hobby, and yeah, they're going to make some money at it because it's a business and that's what they do. And whatever they try, I'm all for it. If it brings good people into the game, and our lives, our paths might cross at some point in the future where it wouldn't have if things didn't cross over. So.
Maybe we won't be able to get rid of Hasbro, the evil behind it and stuff. But I think my fault is that I tend to just like boycott stuff if they do bad things like the OGL thing. But the danger there is that there's good stuff that they're doing too, which I may be in danger of downplaying or being harsh or overly critical against, even though it is actually a long-term benefit for the hobby. So I have to sort of put checks and balances on myself and step back from my emotions and go, okay, that's good. I hate them for it, but that's good. Got to hand them the credit where it's due.
That's exactly.
Okay.
The D&D movie was good. Damn it!
It was very good.
It was.
It was really good.
And I know people think it's going to do well, but I think it's not making enough money for the expense that it was costing, and it's got so much competition. March, April, and May, there are so many really good movies, and
it's going to be definitely a streaming cult classic. Like that's going to be on all platforms and for a long time.
I honestly think that D&D movies will be a classic like The Labyrinth because of all the practical effects and like the Dark Crystal, but it'll probably happen a little while and it probably won't make very much money at the theatre.
It won't be an MCU, but I could see some series, spin-off series and stuff on Netflix and stuff coming out of it.
Yeah, but that D&D Minecraft, this is exactly one of the things that you were saying, AJ, about I feel like I've become, because I'm so angry with Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, that I literally changed the name of my channel and decided to suck up the fact that I would not even make any stuff related to their game or talk about their published stuff or anything like that. That was my response, and it still is.
Yeah.
And then I looked at this and I was thinking, I don't understand, because one, it's not for me. I don't care about D&D Minecraft. I love Lego, but this doesn't work for me. I'm the wrong generation and the wrong mindset. I like physical, do you know? And so I was looking at this and I was thinking, I don't get it. And then I thought, oh shit, this doesn't make any sense. Didn't this thing come out in 2011? And I didn't realize that somebody told me that kids quite young and even teenagers, in the 17, 18, they hang out together and play Minecraft. I had no idea that it seems to be a community hub for the younger generation. And this is why they've made the damn thing. I think it's even more interesting that there used to be there is still a fantasy download that isn't called D&D because they'll probably get into trouble, but it's essentially got, your fantasy monsters already that you can get right now. And so Wizards of the Coast probably saw that and thought, well, I should grab that. So it's definitely money, but I think it actually is quite clever. I guess the only thing that really upsets me the most, I guess, is the fact that the people who are going to benefit from it are the ones that I don't like right now. I'd be happy for it to go to somebody else right now in terms of what's going on. But if they put it on a phone, since so many how many are playing games not on a computer or a laptop, but they have got a smartphone. So they put this thing on a smartphone. They're going to be hanging around somewhere at school, playing Minecraft with their friends, using Bluetooth or whatever the heck it is, right? And Wi-Fi if they've got Wi-Fi and data and all the rest. So it's quite brilliant, and it will probably bring more people into D&D, but also other role-playing games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess I have to. I guess my response is not to be ban. No, we don't want that ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, reluctant acceptance is what Nora called it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think the company's doing their research on stuff, and again, a lot of it they're just testing the waters. Be like, hey, is there an audience for this? I mean, people were losing their minds about the Magic the Gathering crossovers. I was I was ecstatic about it. I played a lot of Magic the Gathering. I played a lot of D&D, and the fact that I could have Volo in my Magic game, and then I could go to here we go, Dungeon Dad, and I could go to Theros and D&D. I mean, that was like the best of both worlds. But if you take somebody that's never played Magic the Gathering and you run them through a Theros campaign in D&D, that's just D&D content to them. They don't know it's Magic the Gathering. That's just D&D content they came up. Same with Magic the Gathering. If they're playing a Volo or a Asurek or some of these D&D based cards in Magic the Gathering and never played D&D, those are just Magic cards to them. They have no idea what that other stuff is. And the same will be with Minecraft. They're going to witness or see these monsters, be like, that's a really cool monster. And if they don't know that it's Dungeons and Dragons related, it's just Minecraft to them.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say, and I heard a perspective that kind of changed my perspective a little bit on this, because I think it's very similar to the tabletop mini space with Games Workshop. And so if you're not familiar with it, Games Workshop does Warhammer 40K, Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar now, and a couple other games. And they're the big fish. Everyone else is tiny. Even the next one, it's like D&D. The number 2 is like a tiny fish compared to the number 1. And so a lot of people like to hate on Games Workshop like they do with D&D. And I'm there with you. Like I'm the first to, I try not to be, but I have hipster like tendencies. If it's popular, I don't, I want to go for that next thing. I don't want to go for the top. I get it. I'm absolutely like that. And it was hard for me not to just jump into it with that, with this thing, because it is, it looks like a cash grab. But you got to remember, these are smaller spaces. These are big corporate entities in a small space. Now, D&D has been blowing up, and TTRPGs have been getting bigger. They have been, but compared to a lot of other industries, it's still very small. And so like Games Workshop, they're the biggest in the space, but compared to other small companies in bigger spaces, they're smaller than that. And again, this is in the process of booming, but because D&D has done well, and because Wizards of the Coast has done well, it has led to other things happening in the space. It's led to Paizo growing. It's led to all these other companies having a chance to grow. And like, how many, the second you log onto Facebook or anything, how many Kickstarters for new games and new spaces and new books have you seen? Every day? And they're getting passed. It's not one or two. A lot of these are making their goal, and that's because of the popularity of D&D. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to have that quote unquote corporate, but they lead to the other true, art, the real art. Because inside that company, again, everyone likes to hate on Wizards of the Coast because it's owned by Hasbro, but within that, there's a lot of creatives. There are. Now, has the work gone down? Sure, but that's because they're not given the time frame. I think, again, that's my opinion. They're not given the time frames because the corporate is telling them that to, but it's still full of creative people doing creative things, and it gets people into that space to then. They could be the ones that make the next cool creative thing. They could be the next Paizo. They can be the next Morkborg. They could be the next thing because they were introduced through Minecraft D&D, through the movie, through, my first was Dragonlance book. I read, the Lord of the Rings. I read all these books, but my first Dungeons and Dragons was a Dragonlance book I picked up in the library when I was in elementary school. So, however he gets people into the space, that person that it's discovered, however it's discovered, they could be the next person making something great that we all then celebrate 20 years from now.
My first introduction, it was in the 80s through Satan. No, I'm just kidding.
Naturally.
It's like 5th edition built the culture. Now the coolness is the counterculture.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
All this being said, I will not be using any of the content that they're creating for this.
Oh, I'm not buying it. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not buying it.
Just like
the fact
enjoy
that it
making
exists
my
is great for
I
those
It must
people.
exist, but we hate it.
I'm not. Yeah, I ain't spending money on it personally.
Yeah.
Very cool. Then, did you have any more to add, Fred? Is that the conversation that you wanted?
No. That's the only thing. I've been trying to wrap my head around this, and every time I talk to somebody about this, it's like I am obviously completely clueless about Minecraft, and I thought they were like a decade late in and trying to get this sorted out. But much to my surprise, a shitty looking game that was made over a decade ago is still like hot cakes. Like, hey,
a lot of people still play Skyrim too.
Actually,
a lot of people still play D&D.
Minecraft 2011.
Did it? A lot of people still play that Dungeons and Dragons game. It's 50 years, almost 50 years.
Oh, that's
old.
right. It is. It's quite an old game, and it's analog too. So.
Yeah, it's analog. Very good. Cool. All right. I'll take us out of here. I want to say a big shout out to everyone in the chat. If you did have some questions in there, I apologize for not getting to them. A big thanks to Norak for the super chats. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And big thanks to Fred for advertising all of our books. He had the Journal Puzzle Encounters, Esperd's Emporium, Tome of Beasts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8, and the Creature Codex, things like that. But yeah, thank you, everybody. Again, big thanks to everyone, my YouTube friends here joining us for this chat. Any last words? Bogeymans? Poo. That's it. That's how we do things.
That's a twofer.
There's about a month or two until I run my second generation Silicone Battle Mats Kickstarter, so stay tuned for that.
Those are really good battle mats. Yeah, very good. So stay tuned. Subscribe to all the channels and notify alerts. I'm sure you'll be sending out an alert when you have that Kickstarter live, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So make sure you're...
He won't tell anyone. He wants it to fail.
I would say when you guys are looking for Kickstarters, support good people.
Yeah,
support good people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also me.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So with that, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. And on to the next.